Hello YouTube, it's your host Axel Rose and you are now watching MVP on Movies. Spider-Man Homecoming has arguably been one of the most anticipated movies of the year. Since Sony and Marvel announced their joint venture and partnership regarding the Spider-Man franchise, fans have eagerly awaited what the fruits of their joint labor would be. Will this start a new franchise and birth a new superior Spider-Man? Or will it be that meth-addicted member of the family who you just really wish was illegitimate?
Wait a minute. You guys aren't the real Avengers. Hulk gives it away.
The overall story in Spider-Man Homecoming centers on Peter Parker after the events of Captain America Civil War. We see Peter Parker getting to grips with his new powers and identity as Spider-Man and trying to see where he truly belongs amongst the Avengers, which often ends up leading to a lot of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man type antics. But alas, things aren't all rosy in the life of Peter Parker. As well as him struggling to find his place on the Avengers, he's also struggling really bad to find his place in high school, where he and his best friend Ned are relegated to the rank of social outcasts. But the tragedy doesn't stop there. A small construction firm run by Michael Keaton, which is only hanging on by a thread, is now being made bankrupt due to the government taking up all their contracts. Gotta love that government. And because this is a superhero, this of course leads Michael Keaton to want to take dramatic revenge against the government and all superheroes combined. At its core, Spider-Man Homecoming is a soft reboot of the Spider-Man cinematic universe, using a new setting, some new characters, and his old rogues gallery. One of the great things about this particular story is, because we didn't have to go through telling his origin, we could skip straight to this new story and new path for all these characters, which is definitely a good thing. Now, even though there are some familiar plot lines and paths that get tread along the way, this is still an enjoyable action movie. All of the cast were in fact very likable, but Peter and Stark were definitely the stars of the show, with their surrogate father-son moments being very charming and entertaining to watch. But, as I said, this film treads a lot of familiar ground. The genius misfit that yearns to be accepted. The gorgeous girl that everybody wants that's just out of reach. The stereotypically lively ethnic best friend. And of course, the obligatory prom night. And in my opinion, too much exposition in some of these weaker areas took away from a twist at the end of the film which could have been really impactful. But that being said, the story is still enjoyable and doesn't leave you with that, oh my god, I know what's going to happen next. And it's definitely not insufferable. Like Wonder Woman.
What are you hiding, Peter? I'm just kidding, I don't care. Bye.
I think Tom Holland did an excellent job as Peter Parker. Personally, I would rank him above Andrew Garfield and just under Tobey Maguire in some weird, sticky Spider-Man sandwich, which I think I'm just gonna quit explaining right now. He pretty much embodied everything that a young Spider-Man should be. The wit, the sarcasm, the angst, it was all there. And when you combine that with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, who's basically deadpanning it at this point, you just get some really choice moments like the one in the trailer.
What if somebody had died?
I was just trying to be like you.
I wanted you to be better. I'm gonna need the suit back.
But I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Another member of the cast who was definitely on their A game was Michael Keaton. His cool and charismatic portrayal of the Vulture was definitely something which actually transcended the comic character itself. Notable achievements include being able to be menacing without the costume and bringing a cool kind of everyman suave to the villain. Very nice job. Even though Ned was a little disappointing, Most members of the supporting cast were very good, and I can definitely see Zendaya picking up some new fans as the girl who knows everything. She was just awesome. She was just awesome.
The illegal weapons barrier was at 2:30. You missed it.
Spider-Man Homecoming is your guilty pleasure usual summer holiday blockbuster fare, and I do not mean that in a bad way. The movie comes out of its corner, hits all the points you wanted it to, and pretty much goes home. Which, as I said before, is definitely not a bad thing. The only problem is, with the overall hype from fans and the mainstream media going into this movie, moviegoers and fans wouldn't be wrong for expecting something of the magnitude of the first Iron Man movie, or maybe even the first Avengers movie, being that the Spider-Man property is something very important to Marvel. But instead, what we have more or less is pretty much a safe reboot of the Spider-Man movie franchise, which isn't that bad. It's just really safe, and we just could have had more. So yes, as regarding a rating, this is a solid summer action film. I am giving this a strong 4 out of 5 stars and stuff like that. Very good, enjoyable and stuff like that. But as a Marvel movie, is it good? And that is where we get into my rant. Now, as I stated before, Spider-Man Homecoming is a really good summer action movie. 4 out of 5 stars. But as a Marvel fan, I'm not gonna lie, I actually despise this movie with a passion. Like, whoever cut the check for this movie, as far as writing is concerned, they obviously didn't opt for that Joss Whedon super package, because this movie is horrible. First off, if you are doing a movie based on a comic property, history is definitely shown that it's better to stay as close to that property as possible. And with this, it seems like they just basically took the development and origin story of Miles Morales, took him out and just replaced that with Peter Parker. Now, for casual fans, that may be okay, but for hardcore Marvel fans like myself, I really just couldn't help but just be frustrated throughout the movie. To see scenes from the comic book on the movie screen, but with Miles Morales missing, kinda looked suspect. Ned is basically just a live action reimagining of Miles Morales' best friend, Gank. I just find it really funny that with all this talk of diversity and diverse casting, that Marvel and Sony found some way to remove the main character who just happened to be black. Now, my main issue isn't that I'm just some obsessed Miles Morales fanboy. My main issue stems from plot and just the basic madness and imbalance that it throws around. Because we've had Peter Parker taken out of his own universe and placed in Miles Morales's, there are certain things that just have to be impacted. For instance, the Shocker battle in the new Spider-Man comics was very impactful and very emotional for the simple fact that Miles Morales was actually infected by the spider by his uncle, who is the Shocker. So when they eventually had to have the showdown, there was so much dramatic and emotional tension because it was a fight between family. And in this movie now, because there's no such chemical or relationship or bond or anything, it's just reduced to a regular goon battle that we just don't care about. Big deal. Another thing is, as far as sequels go and the Rogues Gallery, how is everything going to work out? I mean, in this current universe where Peter Parker is now, Gwen Stacy's not around yet. But in the comic books, she dates Miles. That's actually a big part of the comic book. She's actually, well, let me not go into too much there. You guys gotta catch on that yourself. But it affects things like the Green Goblin. How are Harry and Peter gonna be able to have a close relationship when that role's already filled by Gank? You know, it's just all over the place. And I would have much preferred, if they're gonna center on Peter Parker, to do a much newer, much cooler story, like maybe even something along the lines of Superior Spider-Man, just before things got weird towards the end, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, just something a little bit more true to what it was, because this, as a Marvel fan, just really seemed insulting, to be honest. But do not get me wrong. All of that being said, it is still an enjoyable summer blockbuster movie. You can go there with your friends, have some popcorn, and enjoy yourself. It's just as a Marvel movie, it just pees me off. But yeah, let's leave it there. Let me know what you thought of it. Are you a Marvel aficionado, a purist, or are you one of the fakers? Are you a poser? Let me know. Let me hear your comments and all that good stuff. Holla at your boy. Peace.